Before there was a U.S. Air Force, there was just curiosity. At the start of the 20th century, the Wright brothers made their first successful flight in 1903. Only 4 years later, the U.S. Army showed interest in using this new invention for military purposes. By 1909, the Army Signal Corps purchased its first airplane from the Wrights. But early flight was dangerous, unreliable, and barely useful in war. Then came World War I. Although America joined the conflict late in 1917, the military quickly realized that airplanes could scout enemy lines, disrupt supply routes, and eventually even dogfight in the skies. Still, the U.S. lagged behind European air powers. By the end of WWI, the Air Service still, a branch of the Army, was limited and underfunded. But the idea of air superiority was already taking root. This was the moment the U.S. Army Air Forces truly arrived. When America entered World War II in 1941, it had around 3,500 aircraft. By 1945, it had produced nearly 300,000. The skies became a battlefield. U.S. airmen flew in every theater. Europe, B-17 flying fortresses and B-24 liberators bombed Nazi industrial sites relentlessly. P-51 Mustangs escorted them deep into enemy territory. Pacific, the island-hopping strategy relied heavily on air cover. Fighters like the F-6, F Hellcat, and B-29 Superfortress dominated the skies. And let's not forget August 1945. Two B-29s, the Enola Gay and Boxcar, dropped the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, forever changing warfare. By the war's end, the Army Air Forces were a force of over 2 million men and women and 80,000 aircraft. It was clear, the age of air power had arrived. After WWI, the U.S. military was restructured. One major result, the National Security Act of 1947, which officially created the United States Air Force as a separate and equal branch of the military. No longer part of the Army, the Air Force now had its own command, budget, and identity. Its mission? To fly, fight, and win air power, anytime, anywhere. And that mission would be tested immediately. The Cold War wasn't fought in trenches, it was fought in the skies and space. The 1950s ushered in a new era, jet aircraft. Planes like the F-86 Sabre clashed with Soviet MiGs in Korea. Speed and altitude became the name of the game. Then came the Strategic Air Command, SAC, the backbone of America's nuclear deterrent. With B-52 Stratofortresses loaded with nukes constantly on alert, SAC was a terrifying yet critical piece of global stability. Meanwhile, the Air Force also took to space. In 1957, the Soviets launched Sputnik, sparking the space race. The Air Force began developing reconnaissance satellites, missile warning systems, and space surveillance. By the time of the Vietnam War, aircraft like the F-4 Phantom and B-52 were again delivering massive firepower from the skies. But air power alone couldn't win every war, as Vietnam tragically proved. Today's U.S. Air Force is a force like no other. Over 5,000 aircraft, from the supersonic F-22 Raptor to the stealthy B-21 Raider. A global network of bases, satellites, and command systems. The creation of the U.S. Space Force in 2019 a sign that air and space are now inseparable. And the future? Hypersonic missiles that travel 5x the speed of sound. Artificial intelligence piloting unmanned aircraft. Next-gen stealth bombers that could hit any target, anywhere, before radar even knows they're coming. The Air Force is no longer just about flight. It's about global reach, cyberspace, orbital warfare, and beyond. Behind the machines and missions are millions of men and women who have served. From Tuskegee Airmen breaking racial barriers, to POWs in Vietnam's Hanoi Hilton, to modern-day pilots flying through Middle Eastern sandstorms, the history of the U.S. Air Force is one of courage, innovation, and sacrifice. It's a story of how America took to the skies and never looked back.